mother. What's she got to do with the Young?
All right.
It's your family.
Yes. What was your mother's name?
My mother's name was Emma.
The full name?
Her birth name, well, actually, there's confusion about her birth name. I got her birth certificate, one of her originals, and it looks like her birth name was Vanita Hampton, which is actually the name of my sister. But I think that she actually changed her birth certificate when she got older and changed it to what people called her. And they called her Emma because she looked like her Aunt Emma. So since my mother's not alive and my grandmother's gone, I can't really say the facts on that, but just having gone back and done some genealogy, it looked like the name that she went by was Emma Hampton as her maiden name. But that wasn't her original birth certificate.
What was your mother like?
My mother was had a sense of humor. She also was very creative too. I forgot that because she died when I was 12. But my sister was reminding me that she did all kinds of things, like she sewed and she crocheted and made afghans, and she did kind of crafts and all kinds of stuff like that. She used to sew my clothes. I remember that. But she was smart actually, but she wasn't able to finish high school. I don't know if she even was a freshman in high school, maybe. But she read a lot. She read all kinds of books, and she loved music and but she had a difficult childhood because her father died before she was born.
Do you know her father's name?
Her father's name was Henderson Hampton. And I did some genealogy, and it looks like he enlisted in the service back in like 1918 or 1918.
World War One?
No, that's right. Yeah, World War One. And then I don't know anything after that, so I'm not sure if he died during the war or from a flu epidemic or what. But anyway, from what my family history people said, that he died before she was born. My grandmother's mother had died when she was 13. So our family had a break. There was a break in our family genealogy tree. It was disrupted. Maybe that's a better word, disrupted. And so consequently, she was 12 years old with no parents. My grandmother. And then
What was your grandmother's name again?
Her name was, I knew her as Lucille Hampton. But she had a different name too. So everybody had different names.
Why is that? Why are so many people with different names?
Well, I think they called people, one name, and they'd have another name, and it was just back then. It was, and then I think maybe even people before that had a name before the Civil War, and then they might have changed it after the Civil War. I don't know. It's interesting as I go back and do genealogy. You're trying to find this person, and then you find out that wasn't even the person's name. So it's fascinating. But we called her Lucille Hampton. Her real name was Mary.
You know her maiden name?
Yeah, Hampton.
Okay. And you said her husband's name was?
Yeah, she married a guy named Henderson Hampton.
So she married into her own family, or is it a different Hampton family?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. See, I've even gotten confused. Her real name was Mary McLean. That was her last name, McLean. But her mother had married twice. Her mother's first husband's name was Hampton, and so all her other siblings' names were Hampton. And she being the last one, and with the new husband, mother's new husband, who was a McLean, her name was Mary McLean. And then she married a Hampton, which is interesting. And so then her middle name is Lucille, so it was Lucille Hampton.
All right. Your father.
I know you're all confused at this point.
Tell me about your father.
My father was born in Kentucky in a very small town.
Do you know the name of the town?
Yep, it was Lebanon, Kentucky. No, wait a minute. I'm getting confused myself. Arlington, sorry. He was born in Arlington, Kentucky. And he had, let's see, in his immediate family, he had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. But his father had evidently been married, I think, before, and he had a couple of sons older than that new family. Anyway, it's a tough job trying to sort all that out. So, yeah, but he was the second youngest in his immediate family. Now, I've forgotten what your original question was.
Tell me about your dad.
Oh, okay. So he grew up, his dad died when he was 3.
What was his full name? Your dad?
Cyril Kimbrough.
Okay. No middle name?
Yeah, Cyril Errol Kimbrough. And his sister was 1 and he was 3, his younger sister. And, he had 3 older siblings in his immediate family when their father died. And shortly after his father died, his mother died as well. And so he became an orphan. His mother's sister took all the kids but couldn't raise them all, so she put the boys in an orphanage, 3 boys in an orphanage, and the oldest daughter, who was the oldest of the children, went out on her own, and so they kept the youngest, which was Aunt Helene. So she grew up with her mother's sister, and the boys grew up in an orphanage home, and Thelma had to fend for herself. And so my dad actually was quite smart. He was very smart, and he wound up getting a scholarship to go to college from the city. I think it was a bank or something. I can't remember. And so even with that background, with no parents, he wound up being able to go to college with the expenses paid.
Which college did he go to?
He went to Hampton College or University. And then he was
Do you know what he majored in or what he studied?
No, actually I don't. And then I don't know if he graduated or not. I always thought he graduated, but my aunt was saying she wasn't sure if he did or not. But he went to sign up. He volunteered for the war. The war came about, and he went up in New York and signed up for the Army Air Force. There was no Air Force at that time. It was called the Army Air Force, and so he became a mechanic, I think, in the Army Air Force. And then he was stationed in England during the war. And he came back and came to Evansville after the war because home and all that stuff became important. It was like, I think everybody just wanted to touch stone, touch back with, after being in a war situation, it was like looking back at the roots and stuff. And then him and my mother got married after they met and dated.